Welcome back, everybody. Hey, it's Elyse TV, and it's a Wednesday?
Yes, I believe it is a Wednesday.
Man. I'll admit right now, I've completely lost track. For those of you that are new to us, Khristopher and Garett, we are your hosts, into the future. And because we're talking about 2021, and people are just thinking like 2021 somehow magically on New Year's Eve, we're just going to have this, unicorns and rainbows, and 2021 will be awesome.
We are here. He's the unicorn, and I am the rainbow.
So what we thought we would do for this show is we'll call it the time machine today, is we went through the cellar. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. Normally when we do these tastings, the wines are available. The wines we're tasting today are in exceptionally small supply. So those of you that are library aficionados and like aged wine, sooner rather than later, there are trickles of these wines available, but I mean trickles. So it's not really the focus of today. More of it is just celebrating the fact that these decades of achievement. So today we're going 91, we're going 2001, we're going 2011, and then of course the 2021 is yet to be discovered.
It's already looking like a great year, though.
But remember, go through the tape. Don't stop short. You got to go all the way through the finish line, man. Don't stop short on me. And then Garett is going to, as we open this 91, he's got this better toy. Guys like me will always just go, I don't need any of this new technology, and I'll just put my corkscrew in that 91 and just absolutely obliterate the cork.
Yeah, bring out the coffee filters and make a mess of things.
But those of you that are experienced, these are lower alcohol wines in the 90s here at Elyse. I believe we're doing the How Mountain to start with 91. Of all of the wines that take time to reveal themselves, I would say How Mountain requires some of the more patience of appellations here in Napa. And this is Zinfandel as well, which a lot of the Zin up on How Mountain is still, it's not going to give you the plush, ripe sweetness that you get sometimes from other appellations of Zin within Napa and certainly Dry Creek. But with that kind of patience, 10 and 20 years down the road, you can really discover some fascinating complex wines that How Mountain has always been known for. And strangely enough, as hard as How Mountain was to plant, it was one of the earliest, oldest regions that saw serious agriculture for grapes high up in the mountains. Whether people just were homesteading and just liked the isolation, or like anything else, you just had to plant your own on top of the mountain, because what we can drive in 20 minutes these days took a full day's horse ride to get up and down How Mountain in a day. So we're going to try 91 How Mountain Zinfandel today.
So you have a little list of movies that were coming out, and we just found out that Grant, part of the reason that these shows even happen, he's behind the scenes. So thank you, Grant. He also came out in 91. So thank you, Grant, for a great vintage.
Yeah, you're blessed with a good vintage, man. I was actually born in a good champagne vintage, but for the rest of the wine world.
91 was a very good year. Yeah, 91, it seems, from my recollection, 91, 94, 95, 96, 97, all amazing. And 92, 93 weren't bad either.
Happy holidays, my friend.
Happy holidays,
man. It's good to see you, my friend.
I'm glad we didn't get to inventory today.
Right, me too.
So we'll do that. In 2021, it'll probably look better.
Work.
We have a question.
Question.
When did Weird Al start working at Elyse?
Who is that? Jeff and Julie?
Beat it. Put an egg in your shoe and beat it.
So what was his show? His movie was like UHF back in the
totally.
day?
Look at you.
Nice,
Man.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Good
one of the
old
funniest people ever. Actually, his tour is notorious for fun concerts, man.
He can sing. I saw his Tiny Desk concert not long ago, and he's pretty darn good.
All right, so right out of the gates, this 91 is already showing its minerality. There's really something very, very almost like granite for me, like coming right out of the gates. But look at the color of this. I don't know how close you can get on that, but man, it's certainly showing a bit of its age on the edges. But there's still a nice, good dark garnet in the middle of this. Okay, so to put this all in perspective for you, movies in 1991. Now, I'm going to taste this wine and maybe try to apply a movie to it. But the range. Think about where we were in '91. We're emerging from the 80s and all of its return to American nostalgia, and so there was this era of movies in the early '90s, which was the edge, so to speak. Like, here's America, but here's what avarice can create. So look at this list of movies. There's obviously a lot more than this, and for all of you that are Academy Award followers, none of these are going to be Academy Award winners. I do my best to appreciate those movies. But look at this movie. Look at this just short list from '91. So this will put it all in perspective. In '91, we had Silence of the Lambs, which blows me away how old that movie is. We had, of course, the iconic movie Point Break.
Ooh.
I am an FBI agent, like Keanu Reeves. This is for you.
Must pair with fava beans then.
Totally, right? That's what we were leading up to. Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
All right, a little responsibility.
John Singleton.
Yeah, absolutely. Thelma and Louise. Hello.
Take this with me when I'm driving off a cliff.
That's all I kept thinking about was
my last sip. My last sip on the way down.
And then for those of you that like the art house movies, this was one of David Lynch's early bizarre movies called Naked Lunch. No, that could have been Cronenberg. No, I think it was David Lynch. But this was a Burroughs novel that trying to translate that onto the camera. I saw it at the Nickelodeon in Santa Cruz, represent one of the greatest movie houses of all time.
Cronenberg.
1664. Thank you, France, for the Bud Light of France.
I did just finally see Dune. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah, all right. Nice. Hal McLaughlin at his finest, man.
These people are way too smart for me, and their knowledge of movies is way over my head.
Oh, man. So this wine still has mid-palate fruit. The finish is still really pretty on this, and there's enough, this is a complete wine, start to finish. That's really interesting. I was, by the nose, it felt like it was going to be a little dustier, a little more tired.
Beautiful.
But this is really, really gorgeous, man.
And one thing, so you can see the cork stayed together beautifully. It's preserved this wine perfectly. This tool, which is the Durand, which combines a corkscrew and an osso, amazing. Pretty much, if you have one of these, it's the only wine opener really you need.
I thought Durant was in.
He's in Brooklyn.
Now. Yeah, he's in
Brooklyn,
now,
but he's a wine guy.
Yeah.
LeBron's teaching him a thing or two.
Send that. That's out there.
Also, when you open it, you will see some sediment around the top. Totally normal because we don't fine or filter. And I didn't clean out. Sometimes you can just take a tiny little napkin, twist it together, and just fish out the sediment. So I got a little sediment in my glass, but you can also avoid that.
Yeah, you can use the old school method like me. Just stick your finger in your wine and try to get that last little bit out, man. Yeah, this is really... So here's the thing about older wines, though. For those of you that are experienced, this is not new to you. For those of you that are not, these wines are really pretty. They're well preserved. There's a really amazing body of wine left in this vintage. But it's not going to be your normal, let's pull the cork and drink it over 2 hours. These are the kind of wines that you really need to go, we're going to go cork, glass, enjoy, and watch it kind of unveil. But the structure that this wine is revealing right now, I think this could stay open for quite some time.
It's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Beautiful, floral characteristics starting to come through. The fruit is still there. It's not this big, opulent, ripe, fresh fruit anymore.
We have a question?
It's gotten a little leaner, but the fruit is still fully there. Question in the back.
This is a tough one. What year did the label change?
Oh, that's a great one. I have no answer to that right now. I should have a better answer to that because we have 5 different labels here at Elyse over the years. You can see where we went from the early 90s to that kind of what I almost refer to as a tapestry label, and then in the late 90s we got the watercolor,
the blue.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say 98 Zins were, I think 97 for the Zins. The cab labels turned red in the early 90s.
Early 90s, yeah. We had, starting 96, 97, I want to say we saw the red label for the Cabernets come out.
I think even earlier than that. Like the early 92s, I know, are red.
Yeah, we had one of these shows we did where we had 5, I think, wines lined up, and there were 5 different Elyse labels.
Really cool labels.
What's great is you'll get to answer this question when we do our end-of-year inventory.
Yay! So sorry we missed it today, though.
You seriously that are library collectors, here's the thing is Garrett and I have to go through in the next week or so and basically hands-on count every piece of library left to Elyse. At that point, reach out and give us a wish list. We love wish lists. I want to try 93. I'm a big fan of 95. I bought my house in 91. Let us know your library interest. Now, I will tell you right now, the library pretty much exists from 1990 through to about 2010. But there's a lot of holes in that library. So send us wish lists and give us some time to do a little homework for you. You know, at some point a winery has to go through this moral decision about, do I sell every single bottle that we've ever made, or do we keep this echo library of wines that we can go back to and still do shows like this and have fun with? But when I got people calling me going, that was the year I met my wife, I've got one Magnum left of that vintage, and I'm sitting there going, do I keep this for a maybe, or I've got an enthusiast that's going to put it in the right... We're pretty easy to talk into, I think. So,
yeah, definitely.
We're not much on saying no.
And all these, I mean, single vineyards are amazing. These Howe Mountains, the Morasolis, obviously. We've found some gems with the Courtevals in, which is kind of a blend between the Howe Mountains, the Morasolis. It was something that Ray did, which we found. We started popping into some, and they're outstanding. So... yeah, the Michael Keys, I doubt you're watching. Why would you be? But I'm trying to find the Magnum to finish your cases. So after we do inventory, I'll know personally what we have, what I would recommend.
So I think I'm going to have to go Silence of the Lambs with this wine.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
and it's weird really because it's not iron.
Yes.
But it does remind me that somebody could be bleeding.
There is a... what do you call it? A sanguinello.
There you go. Nice. Good Latin.
There is, because there's almost a blood orange aspect to it on the nose at this age, which is really fascinating.
I think it's delicious. I'd be stoked to bring this to a blind tasting with my Master Somm friends, and this is just a beautifully made wine and well held together.
So that's a great question. How can you tell in a blind tasting how old a wine is?
First off, color, which like wines from Piemonte, Italy are kind of the exception. So you look at them, this could be a 2015 from Barolo.
The
but
meniscus
then,
of the wine, the edge of it, so to speak. The orange can speak to Nebbiolo, which is what Garrett is talking about. Aged wine, you look at the color, and as it changes. Now, that can also be overlapped with certain winemakers have certain winemaking styles, and that color doesn't change on the rim at the same rate as other winemakers. So It's not 100% sort of, this is the way all wine reacts, but as a general rule,
the difference between the core color to the rim, and there's a variation between a darker center core and then fading to like an orangish brownish hue, turning brickish, which this does have that color.
Experience also helps, because you look at a wine, there is a freshness and a texture that a newly made wine can bring on. So even if it's orange on the rim, and I get certain freshness of acidity and freshness of flavor, I can start to extrapolate. If it's orange on the rim and it's still pretty tannic, I'm starting to lean towards maybe Old World. I'm starting to lean towards, different varietals. And so there's a lot of process of elimination when you're evaluating and kind of going after old wine. Is there a banker factor that I would taste in this wine that would tell me it's a Zinfandel? Now, this is the really hardest part of this whole equation is a lot of times when we do blind tastings, old Zinfandel like this is often identified as Bordeaux. It's really funny to see how many blind tasters come away with, this could be left bank, this could be 20 years old. There's very much, because of the lower alcohol, there was a complexity I think that was allowed to show through in these wines as they've aged. Whereas we've traded that off for opulence and maybe the more modern winemaking style. I'm not saying they're not going to age, but they're going to age differently. And this, I think, maybe is a more terroir-driven wine, whereas I think modern winemaking might be a more structurally longevity kind of wine rather than the site having a louder voice in that wine. But it's really interesting when we've done a lot of blind flight tastings to see how many times and Sangiovese can be misidentified as Bordeaux too. It's really interesting to see that. All right, so now we're going to move. We're going to flash forward. So we're back in our time machine. Now we're coming back forward 10 years, and we're going to now go to 2001. And it was too easy to use 2001: A Space Odyssey as one of the movies, but it wasn't released in 2001, so it doesn't count. And I'll just tell you right now, from me in Hollywood, starting in about 2001, man, movies started down a whole path of, if you're a writer out there, man, you better step up, man, because I can't see any more like 2 and 3 part, 4 part, like stop with the, just, can somebody write me a beautiful, new, unique movie out
Why
there?
Why not just copy what's been done before and regurgitate it in a slightly different name?
So, in perspective, 2001. Now, this is the other one that blew me away.
This is really cool.
The George Clooney
brown
version,
fruit.
Okay, of Ocean's 11 came out in 2001.
Wow.
That is not a 20-year-old movie.
Wow.
This is killing me. One of my personal favorites, though, Dogtown and the Z-Boys. This is the greatest documentary.
Classic skateboard movie.
Sean Penn, yeah, we'll have a longer talk about I Am Sam later. Didn't you see, what was it, Tropic Thunder?
Yes, but I don't get the correlation, but that's all right.
2001 was Lord of the Rings.
What?
Yeah, right? Those of you that are...
Because I had a stalker in high school that thought I looked like Arwen.
Yeah.
Oh, welcome Bo to the show. He likes to lay low under the cameras, but he's walking around, sending his holiday cheer.
Come on, show anybody out there that still has the Lord of the Rings bookends, with the 2 big statues when they were in the boat. Just log on and tell us. It's time to admit it.
I still have my copy of Board in the Rings.
Board
of the Rings.
Yeah,
Nice.
Now this one is just for Josh, but anybody that loves to quote movies. 2001 also provided one of the greatest quotable movies of all time, and that was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh, yes.
That is just a
clown
epic
shoes.
Movie. But I can't believe 20 years. That really is starting to
that one makes the most sense, but I don't remember those 5 years.
Again, for your art house guys, this is an esoteric movie, but it's one of the greatest animated movies ever made, called Waking Life. This is a great Linkletter movie about philosophy and how we evolve through philosophy as well as technology.
I thought you were going to say phylloxera.
Well, I couldn't get that word out. Like, that's going to be my nightmare, where here I'm going through a master som exam, they're like, spell phylloxera, I'll be like, damn it!
Can you use it in a sentence?
Of all the things, man!
What's the language of origin?
Spell Osarenko. You're killing me right now!
I got that. I'm not a tennis player.
So yeah, again, look at the color of this. We did our best to line up the wines, but our 2011 cellar was pretty... empty by the time we took over the winery, so we have to change varietal when we get to the 2011. But we kept How Mountains in, and then we went Morasoli on the 2001.
Yeah, and anytime you get to vintages that don't get a lot of acclaim here in Napa or Sonoma, really when you're talking about critics that are those spectator enthusiasts, whatever, and they're rating vintages, really around here in Napa, they're talking about Cabernet. So now the 11 vintage that we'll get to later, jumping ahead, might not get amazing scores for Cab, but whenever Cab doesn't get amazing scores, it means it was a little cooler. Well, it's amazing for vintages for the Zinfandel grape, Merlot grape, all sorts of other grapes. That being said, when we get there, that's going to be amazing. So, but this 01 Zinfandel Morasoli has got
Creedy,
amazing
if you're watching, this is perfect for
fruit.
you, man. This is gorgeous.
This has still got a ton of fruit, but now is being less selfish and sharing the stage with some secondary and tertiary.
Yep.
Oh, those words again.
There it is.
Sorry.
But man, the mid-palate fruit is really intense in this wine. It is full flesh. There's the sweetness that Zinfandel brings. There's structure. There's acidity to this. There's a toffee right on the finish. That's really a beautiful note. I mean, this is an exceptional share.
Yep. Plum, raspberry,
Gary,
strawberry.
you've done good, Gary Morasoli, man. This was
and the
perfectly
weight,
grown, man.
on it. It's just a soft, round mouthfeel that has the weight, but it's just so smooth and succulent. Pretty incredible.
Here, Grant, hold on to that for me. There you go.
You missed earlier. Someone had picked up a wolf spider and tried to throw it outside, and Brooke was right outside. The wolf spider landed on her.
No, man.
Oh, no better home.
Yeah, right?
Brooke takes care of her animals.
The wolf spider's like, this is the greatest day ever.
Yeah, it's. I'm almost sad for you guys in Facebook and Instagram land, because Khristopher was just on a Zoom tasting with Josh, and if he was going to be late, Brooke was going to be the stand-in. I have a feeling if she started in, like, Khristopher wouldn't have earned his spot back. Actually, I probably would have been bounced. But you guys would have loved it.
We have been trying to get Melissa and Cheryl and Brooke to do a show and talk about the other side of the aisle and how they perceive wine and differently. And we can't convince them.
Yeah,
to
I
do
did
it.
one with you.
That is true.
That is very true.
We'll
You were
get one next
awesome,
year.
man.
I'll get one
So
next
we
year.
need write-in votes. We can guilt them into it. So if we get enough response that we need the gal show, we'll go and stand behind the camera.
Yeah. So it won't actually work. But we've
I'm
been
actually
good
going
about
to do
bringing the beauty forward with wine, but we'd love to do it with our staff too. So, yeah. Thank you.
You've gotten so many compliments on your hair that.
I'm pretty sure I know who that Weird Al comment
You've
was.
gotten
Thank you, Mark
multiple
Simon.
compliments on your hair. And Elaine wants to know what products you use.
Oh, we'll talk about that off camera, Elaine.
Soul
But
Glow.
tequila and Michter's Rye help.
Yeah. See?
Got you.
Oh man, is that
it is
one good?
Opulent. What would you pair with it?
This to me is almost, there's enough earthiness here where I'm almost picturing going more of like roasted beets. Like I want to play a little sweetness from the beet, earthiness from it, and I want to play with, like I would, if I was going to go fish, this is almost smoked trout for me. This has almost got a little bit of smoke I want to play with and a little bit of sweetness from the trout for sure. It makes me want to play with pomegranates. You know,
Yeah,
I
see that.
I could see playing that as the finishing kind of sauce with, smoked trout and pomegranates, and then play around with the endive or frisee or something to bring a little edge to it.
Yeah, the classic pairing with Zinfandel a lot of times is barbecue, and I still think that plays beautifully.
Maybe
Meats
barbecued eel, like the sushi barbecued eel.
Ooh,
Kind of thing.
unagi.
Yeah, I could see that working.
I like it.
And Zinfandel for me has always been great for things like sushi. There's enough acidity in Zinfandel inherently that I think it plays in the ocean and on the land really well. But you have to have
As
oil.
do I.
I'm amphibious. Oil. You have to have oil in the fish for this Zinfandel to work. If you're going roughy, if you're going petrale sole, it's never going to work. But you need a little oil from the salmons, or you can, take the sea bass to that next level. There's a little oil in the fish will do wonders.
And that's
Red
why,
snapper would be all
like
over
the
this.
unagi rolls,
Yeah.
usually paired with avocado, which gives it fattiness and oil as well.
And I would never have let a Zinfandel go, 19 years before pulling the cork on it.
No
It's
way.
just not something I associate with my own personal style of wine drinking. And I would have missed this show. I mean, I would have killed these wines within a year of purchasing them. But this is really, this is amazing. So
Thankfully, Christopher has low object permanence. You just have to hide the wine out of eyesight.
Well, yeah, keeping the young vintages that were just bottled out of his hands is a tough one.
I like to stand at the end of the bottling line typically.
Yeah.
Like, that's really where my...
There's a reason, sorry investors, the two of you out there, that was the last 25 gallons straight down the
Yeah,
gullet.
it's all me. My fault.
We just wrote those off as samples.
Well, we call them blending sessions.
That's
I
true.
think
That's true.
it's easier that way. Well, perfection is
Letting
not...
all the secrets out.
We have a fun fact. When we blended institution, Russell and Josh drank over a barrel of wine in the process of blending.
That is true.
Well-
I had to explain that to our accountant.
Perfection doesn't walk up and announce itself, What was the great quote? It was, opportunity is not recognized by most people because it's often disguised as hard work.
I miss that all the time.
So sometimes when you look at these blending sessions, it's not that the wine's not good, it's that we know there's a perfection out there and we're not going to leave that stone unturned. And that just takes a little time and diligence. And you'll know, there's no math to get you there. There's a moment when you're blending wine and all of a sudden your brain goes, that's it. That's what we were looking for. Now somebody figure out what I just put in this glass. And so going backwards and trying to recreate your blends from a technical standpoint can be one of the most... There's no worse moment in our world than going, boom, I nailed it. Now, what did I put in this again? And trying to recreate that backwards. And so it's always good to have one kind of linear, vigilant force around the table when we're creating these wines. 2011.
I almost don't want to move on because these two rock me.
Right?
Anybody that saw me open this bottle, you saw I used my finger to clear out the sediment. I washed my hands before, and it's just him. So, so I'm pretty comfortable. I would never do that for you at home.
And there's nothing that we can do to him that hasn't been done already. Yeah.
That's true.
That is true. Thank you, Elaine, for catching him up.
Yes. So I would have to say, to go backwards to the '01, because of how powerful that was, and because it's more a Soli, I think I'm gonna have to go Dogtown and the Z-Boys, man. There was something about being a little bit rebel, a little bit innovative, you know, just kind of following your own path. I might have to pair that movie with that wine.
Okay, I love that movie. It just seems weird pairing wine with a skateboard movie anyway.
Sure.
But who knows? Now they're like 55.
I don't normally recommend
they're
riding
your
a
senior.
skateboard while you're drinking wine. Look, anybody that's bought their kids a skateboard for Christmas and said, "Oh my God, I used to love skateboarding," and they jump on it, you just log on with all the photos of your wrist cast and your shoulder, your clavicle cracked and all that, because we've all busted our rear ends getting on our kids' skateboards. It's the dumbest thing you can possibly do.
Also, don't be afraid to use your bottled wine pre-opening or post to roll out your dough. All those people that got your sourdough starters in the last COVID year, they're great rolling pins. Flour them up, take a video of that Elyse bottle rolling out your bread, and then show us you eating the bread with your wine. That could be fun.
Okay, so for the movie enthusiasts out there, by 2011, Hollywood was really pissing me off. There were so few awesome movies as we progressed into that second decade of the 2000s. You should see the list of released movies in 2011. It was blah, blah, blah 2, blah, blah, blah 3, blah, blah, blah 4. It was just like all these extensions of existing movies, you know. So it was interesting that there was one, what is the word, when you're a prophet?
Prophetic?
I want to make sure
Not
I got that
prosthetic.
out. Thank you. I was like, it's a false limb. I couldn't get the word out. Yeah. Was the movie Contagion. It's out there on Amazon right now, and the fact that came out in 2011 is so eerie how much it's mimicking what we're going through right now.
I watched
without
that
the
in March.
the thing on the kitchen floor. It's
Time,
not
yeah.
quite. It's a little less dramatic than that for sure. And for any of us Bay Area fans out there, Moneyball came out. The old Billy Bean story. Yeah, man, that was
well done.
Was
that Matt
Jonah
Damon?
Hill was great in that movie, man. You know.
Was Matt Damon in that?
Matt
Who was the head?
Damon.
Was he?
No, it
Who
was
was the head guy?
Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Get him confused all the time. I'll take Matt Damon.
But then also, you know, I think it started that era of movies where I think the truth was starting to come out more and more about how the world really works. And so that whole series of movies, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, opened a whole Pandora's box of how the world really, really works. And I think social media, if it's done anything, it's shown some pretty bright lights and some pretty dark closets out there. So there's a big plus coming with all of that.
Social media's done a lot.
So here we are at 2011. This is Tejan Cabernet Sauvignon. Hugh, you're the man.
Yeah. This was the last vintage we did Tejan until Ray and us brought it back in 17 vintage, and we haven't even released the 17. It's killer. But we're happy to have the Tejan back next door to Morasoli and the Scarecrow Vineyard.
And yet this 2011 is showing like it needs time. It's still not quite fully awake yet. That is.
Swirl on your glass for a bit, because you were
For sure.
in the valley in 2011, and what was the harvest like?
2011. 2011 was one of those years where I want to say, if my memory serves, it was super, super wet that spring. We had one of those like 45-day runs.
Yeah, May was our last rain. Only a little bit of May, but still, May's late for rain for us.
And when you follow that with a fairly mild year in terms of temperature in the summer, I got tons of water, and I got all this green growth. So 2011, in my opinion, was one of those vintages where I think the vineyard manager relationship with the winemaker was very, very apparent.
Yeah.
You had to discipline yourself in 2011 to drop a lot of grapes on the ground to really focus your vineyard and to get the flavor. And where Tejan is positioned, it receives a lot of the water coming down from that whole Rutherford bench right past Coppola, right past Scarecrow, and Morasoli on
Inglenook now.
Yeah.
Coppola then.
And so that will also explain the longevity of some of these wines. When you inundate a vineyard with that much water, and you start to get a little more prolific production, dropping grapes on the ground, you're going to get slightly higher acidities just by the sheer balance of what that vineyard is trying to achieve. And higher acidity years, in my opinion, will never be the flash out of the gate year,
Yeah.
but they will serve the test of time exceptionally well. And here we are, this is a 2011, so we're 10 years down the road, and it's just starting to rub its eyes and wake up a little bit. So this is one of these vintages where I think patience really would have served you well.
Well, Bradley Nelson's just stunned that you're saying the wine's not peaking.
Why do you gotta out me like that, man?
Don't even know what that means, but I'm sure there's a couple different backstories.
Yeah, they're all used to me drinking the wine right off the bottling line.
Oh,
so
yeah.
anytime I say a wine is too young, they're like, I don't even know you anymore. You're my hero. And then...
So also, just a comment about 2011. Since in the 2 years I've been working with Russell Bevan and this crew, he is so hands-on in the vineyard and really has an amazing way to start tending to the vineyard aggressively in April and May and June that not a lot of winemakers do. Maybe they're not as hands-on enough, but that's also why he excels in every vintage. Especially, I think it seems especially in off vintages, maybe not as hyped vintages, just because his wines stick out every single year. But pretty sure he was one of the only winemakers to get a 100-point score in 2011.
Actually, the only one in the world.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to under-promise and over-deliver, so thank you,
that.
Russell, because I think that's what you do with your winemaking. You under-promise and over-deliver.
And if you ever see a vineyard that only has like 3 leaves on it, it's probably something with Russell Farms.
Russell's 100-point score was for Jean
Tin
Phillips. When she left and sold Screaming Eagle, she had repurchased another vineyard called Tin Box across the road. And that was
Tin Box,
tapping
Tin
Russell
Barn.
as the new talent to make the wine. Gene, I just have to say I admire you. You found a whole new paradigm, a whole new vineyard.
Oh, no pun intended with paradigm.
Right?
Gene Phillips and Ren Harris were partners in their real estate business.
Look at that, huh?
Nicely done.
Just
Did you
saying,
even
man.
try to do that?
I'm just saying, man. There's a few of us left.
God. Subconscious excellence.
Now, I will tell you, by the second and third sip of this 11, this is one of these great occurrences with a great wine, especially from a site like Tejan, is it builds. As each sip comes in and textures, your mouth is now fully accepting the tannins, and the fruit is getting bigger and bigger in this wine with each progressive sip. So this is a wine that definitely benefits. Of all what we've tried so far, this one eats food. This one is built each flavor on top of itself, and this guy really wants to play. It's easy to go Cabernet and beef, but man, it really wants a little slab of something that's got some fat on it.
Yeah, lamb chops with the fatty crust on the end with some rosemary. But I am doing my darndest to try and get some green out of this wine, which 11 is notorious for Cabernets being underripe and have that green bell pepper. I don't get any of it.
Especially at the bottom of the hill. I mean, it really wants to scream Pyrazine, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not
I
doing
don't.
that. So well done, 2011 guys. Chris Carpenter, if you're out there, you have to tell us when you guys officially got involved in Tejan. The other half of this vineyard goes to Chris Carpenter for Cardinal, I want to say. And so when you've got two epic winemakers vying for the same vineyard, it's going to be fun to keep pushing those lines back and forth over the years.
It could be Mount Brave too, which got crazy scores. Celia Welch have her hands in this vineyard too.
I gotta
Maybe
tell you,
that was
I don't
back in the
know.
day.
You would Celia, log on, tell us. If I'm going to pair this with a movie, I'm going Moneyball, because what does this wine do? This wine gets on base.
Oh, this is an analytics dream
yes, this
right
is an
here.
analytics dream wine right here, man, for sure.
I love that call.
Yeah. Over delivering, and this is, I think 2011 is one of the first vintages, at least for me, when I think the sweeping statement started to have less impact. 2011, when they said was a panned or a bad vintage, and then Russell comes out with his phenom wines. This is really, I think, one of those early vintages that started to really illustrate that the sweeping statement of good and bad vintage was going to be much more micro, in that certain winemakers were still able to yield exceptional wines in troublesome conditions. And the nature of that whole longer conversation about farming changing, and about more and more micro farming, about farmers not unicropping one 20-acre vineyard. Now there's A, B, and C, and changing trellising and changing sun alignment and improving their craft. I think 2011 was one of those vintages where we start to slowly see that agricultural fulcrum swing. And so I love that reaction, and that it's very rare that he'll sort of hear people pan a whole vintage.
Yeah.
You know, there are certain winemakers out there, you know who you are, that said 2020.
Oh, yeah, you feel that death stare.
Oh man, that 2020 is a
point.
completely pan vintage and we can't make any decent wine in it. Step up to the plate and increase your effort. How about that instead, man? Because I think there's some exceptional wines still available from a really, really troublesome vintage in 2020.
I also think for some of us in the business, you know, even somms outside of Napa, hopefully they kind of realize that critics have a certain style, and if it doesn't meet that style, then that means it's a bad vintage. But we also have minds of our own, opinions of our own, and their answers and their opinions kind of give us a guideline for what that vintage is going to be like, and know that just because they don't like a certain wine or a certain vintage, it just doesn't meet what they score highly. And I feel like 11 was very similar to 98. A lot of cool, you know, 98 got horrible ratings as a vintage, but then when you tasted it 10 to 15 years later, it dominated 97 in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Because it had the acid to hold up. It already had the tannin, had acid, where, you know, those are the two building blocks of structure and ageability. So 11's similar to that, and now we're seeing the fruits of that because it is aging beautifully. And the vintages like 97 and 07, they're awesome.
Yeah.
But they're not going to last 20 years. Most likely, actually. I mean, I have had 97s and 07s.
The challenge has been laid down. There it is, man. You know, 97, 98. That might have to be one of our future tastings.
I like it.
I think we might need to do it blind.
Now, this occurred to me when I was on the way to the winery today, and Susan Dubrow, I know you're out there. We're going to put one of these tastings together in the future. We're going to have the same wines, but we're going to have her do the Riedel Glass Challenge.
Oh, I like that.
Do I like this wine more out of the specialty shaped glass, or do I like it out of this AP, all purpose? I think it'd be fun to bring that into the equation and talk about if I'm ever going to employ that extra expense about putting great glassware into my house, and I'm going to employ some of these older wines, put it in its perfect light. Does that glass make that kind of pivotal difference if I'm going to enjoy wines of this nature?
That AP brought back some maybe PTSD from my only AP class in high school, biology. Thank you, Mr. Scribner. I did not earn the pass. But luckily, I earned the A. But AP would be my thing. I like one glass for everything.
Yes.
But it is amazing when you do go through them, they shine even brighter. So, Susan, you do a great job.
To bring it full circle, one glass to rule them all.
He's so above me. Well, this has been an outstanding tasting. I didn't try any of these wines before and was kind of thinking that I might have to fake it on some of these wines. But they are outstanding.
Yeah, the tarragon and the Tejan is coming through. There's almost a little
All
bit
of
of that
them
licorice
have
thing.
impressed me.
Man.
The ripeness, roundness, and like togetherness of this, like the overall beauty of the craft of this wine that is still, I worry sometimes about people that are so used to young wines being like, oh yeah, my child was born in 91 or whatever. It's like, okay, you gotta, this delivers.
Wow.
It's amazing.
And this also, I have to compliment Ray and Nancy. Part of what I think makes these kind of tastings great is these wines were stored perfectly. And there's a lot to be said for that. And don't get hung up on having to build, because I think sometimes in the wine world, you see these photographs of these characters and they've got these cellars, and you have to have a golf cart to get from Champagne to Bordeaux in their cellar because of how vast it is. This is not what the wine world is about. A simple 3-case refrigerator, what they call a freshman fridge. Keeping wine in those, I hate to say the word styrofoam, but it's still the best temperature and kind of variation protection material. Keeping it in the darkest closet in your house. There are all these methods, but I'm really impressed with their dedication here at the winery. When we're pulling out wines from the mid-'80s that were stored in the most perfect conditions, this is how you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to enjoy these wines if you're going to go library at this level, for sure.
So before we wrap up, I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for watching us almost this whole year when we've been having to try to survive without you visiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really.
And
Seriously,
if you can't hear Cheryl, because It sounds like she's mumbling. She's not. She has her mask on. Grant has his mask on. We're very careful about all of that. We basically made out this whole year,
totally. So
we're kind of in our own little bubble.
Yeah.
But
ladies, if you want to log on, I can describe to you what it's like to run your fingers through his hair.
You'll get stuck. It'll be naughty. Double entendre. But yeah, we appreciate you guys logging in.
Okay, so our next show, I think we're doing one in January. I want to say after all the football games before the big February game.
Okay.
And I think the one in January right now is lined up for maybe us to give them an insight into the next wine club, the Spring Wine Club.
Oh, I like that.
And this thing about Elyse is sometimes when you look at our wines, we don't make what we call wine club only wines, but some of the production has driven a certain site to only make a couple of hundred cases of wines through Elyse. So technically some of these wines, if you're a club member, they never see the light of day because the club's been absorbing those. So it's one of those things, check out the website. It's a really fun lead in. But getting involved in the club with us here is getting the first shot at a lot of these wines. And I'll just admit it. If you're a club member and I have a non-club member and they both want the last bottle of some of these older vintages, I'm sorry, the club member is always going to get the first shot at the library. So always think about that in terms of priority.
What's your Super Bowl picks?
Ooh, I mean,
AFC versus NFC.
You mean who's going to play Kansas City?
Yeah.
Seattle, Kansas City kind of seems like the game, doesn't it?
There it is. You heard it here first. I'm going to go with Tampa Bay Buffalo. Just to make
Whoa, yeah. That's a
going
good
out
I
on
like
a
that
limb.
one, man. Watch out for Buffalo.
What about college?
Man, you know?
So Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama.
I thought Ohio State got Clemson.
Ohio State.
What?
Those are the 4 teams left.
Okay.
They play what?
So Notre Dame plays
Right.
Alabama, which
Correct.
could be the greatest game of the entire college season.
You must be
I'm
from
going to pick right now
South
Notre
Bend.
Dame to upset Alabama.
Woo!
I am going to pick Clemson over Ohio State.
So Notre Dame, Clemson.
And I'm going to pick Clemson
Yeah,
to beat
see, that's
Notre
always,
Dame.
That's how I do it in the NCAA Final Four. You can have your upsets, but you don't want to go too far to pick them to win it all because then you're...
Trevor Lawrence, I'm sorry you're going to... you just got that weird glow around you, kid. Yeah, so
I'm
that's
going
You're first.
Alabama, Ohio State, Alabama to win it all.
Wow, all right. Ohio State to beat Clemson. You heard it here first.
Roll Tide Roll.
Roll Tide Roll.
RMFT.
Oh,
for all you Crimson Tide fans out there, you know what it means. And I didn't actually cuss on
Now,
air.
what wine are you going to pair with the college football game? And why would you pair it differently than the Super Bowl?
Whoa. And now I got to remember who I picked. Sorry for this dragging on, but we only had 3 wines, and we got to fill an hour. No. So, all right, let's see. So I have Alabama,
Ohio State.
Yeah. And Alabama's winning. So roll Tide.
Yeah.
Roll MF Tide.
Yep.
For those that know what it means. They've got the tusks, so we need some minerality.
Yep. Endangered is helpful.
Ooh,
Right.
thank you. I might go with 2017 Addicts Tench Cab.
Ooh, yeah.
But I don't even know if we've released that yet, but it's not going to be around long.
Yeah,
I think
trust me, if you don't know, you don't
it
know.
outscored Screaming Eagle, so
Hey.
for you
Whoop.
score heads out
Whoop.
there, if we're talking about scores of the final, that take the over.
Actually, the word is again.
And then, where does dude where my car fit into this?
Paid my money, saw it in the theater.
And then the Super Bowl, if it's Tampa Bay and Buffalo. Tampa Bay, Buffalo. I don't even know
Something
who's
on
winning that game.
The big inland waterway,
We got a buck and a buffalo,
Right.
a couple of bees. Probably the Herba Institution. None of you know about that, so I'd recommend doing some research because I think a lot of people will be researching that vineyard once they taste it.
Yeah, the Herba, step up to the plate. This wine is worth every penny to get to it. It's an epic sight.
Yeah.
We're going to be making some really, really exciting
Bo heard that, and he's back in the building.
Bo said, did somebody say Herba?
Bo, Bucks,
Oh,
Bills.
drink champagne.
Yes, he's a grower champagne only guy.
Yeah, he's. Yeah. I won't say
You don't
that.
even drink Delamont anymore. He's like, Salon, seriously, step up. Yeah.
All right, so how do we sign off?
Okay.
I'll let you. You got the mouthpiece.
So, again, wow. Thank you so much for the support. We're doing our best to keep this whole thing as fun as we can. man, stick to it, guys. We're all going to get through this together. Reach out about the library wish list, though. Trust me, we've got a lot of work ahead of us to go through this Elyse library. If we don't stand behind the vintage or the wine, we won't make it available. It's as simple a promise as that. But reach out about some of these wish list wines and log on to the next show. I think January 5th we might have put on the calendar for our next show. But start seriously thinking about getting involved with us as a club, because as Elyse progresses, we're not going to make any more Elyse. The club is going to absorb more and more of the existing wines being made, and it's really going to be a fun era for Elyse out there. So I encourage you, get on, play with 2100 Hoffman Lane. Oh my God, is this the greatest website? You could mix and match and play like.
I didn't think about that, but 2100 Hoffman Lane, we've got what? 91, 01, 11, and 21.
Yeah.
100 Hoffman Lane.
Yeah. Perfect.
Sorry, my brain sees numbers.
I thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. Again, don't pull up short. Stride through the tape.
Don't trip either.
Oh my God, man. You know. And we'll see you on January 5th for the next show.
Don't say a date, because then if we don't get there, we'll see you in January.
See you in Super Bowl picks, but not commit to a date in January.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Under promise, over deliver.
And remember, again, a bottle a day. That's all we ask.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers, man.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.